The method I used to get this nice clean cut, considering the tools that I'm using, was scoring it. And that took a really long time and it did not feel good on my hands. Problem is, I need to make the bottom. So I need to cut this piece similarly, or meaning I need a bowl that looks like this. This is the top, I need the bottom. And I really do not want to go through the process of scoring this forever and ever and ever. And luckily, I remembered a very crude method for cutting, for achieving what I want to achieve. And it is so crude that normally it causes problems. But because the bottom will go on the inside, many of the problems it would normally create won't be a factor. And in fact, might be a little bit of an advantage, interestingly. I only need to be a little bit careful in some areas. So remember, this line tells us the maximum height we want. And by coincidence, the line is, unfortunately, just a little bit below the height of the block that I've been using as a guide. But that's okay this time, because I'm not going to score around and around and around a million times. I want to make one score, just one, as a guideline. So I hope that I can make a really nice level score, just one, I hope. So to help myself, I'm going to mark another score that's lower. Now that helps me because this physically changes the surface of the material that I'm working with, so that in a minute when I line it up, the needle, the safety pin, will prefer to stay in that little groove. So that will help me start it, and then once it's in a groove, it will want to stay in that groove. See, I don't want to make it level, I want to have it down at an angle, and I want that angle to stay perfect for one rotation. Or maybe a couple, not very many, but I really would like it to stay perfectly level. And it is already challenging in part because of my handshake. So I think it would be easier for many other people. It certainly would have been much easier for me when I was younger. I think I'm at a good spot. Let's see if I can do one good ring. Well, I just moved my finger, so I've kind of committed to this. Okay, that's good enough. I am using this line merely as guidance. So the fact that it's very faint in some areas and that the groove is so little that it's not going to guide anything is fine. I want it as a visual marker more than anything else. So that is good. I think of it as the hole punch method, but I don't remember why. There was a point where I owned one of the handheld hole punches for paper. There was one time where instead of using scissors or a knife to cut something, I actually just used a series of hole punches to cut it. I am going to make a series of small holes, and then I will use this to expand each of the holes. And especially because this tip, by orienting it this way, it'll expand the hole in this horizontal direction, which is what I want. I don't want it to expand up and down. I want it to expand in this direction. This combination of tools should be good. Should. We'll see. Right now, making this first hole is pretty easy because the structural integrity of the can is at its highest because there's no defects except for the little bit of scoring. So I'm going to push quickly. Look, I'm barely going to put any pressure so that it does not pierce, and watch what happens to the surface of the can. You see it deforms instead of piercing. But now I'm going to push with a lot of acceleration. You see there was very little deformation and it did pierce. The width of this will expand the hole out to about there on each side. So if I put another one right about here, that's good. Look at the difference in the integrity of the can and its ability to resist deforming. See, I barely touched it. I wasn't even trying to push, and it deformed. It deforms much more easily just because there's one hole, one little hole right here, and that's only like 3 millimeters away, and it already has much less structural integrity. Let's say the total number of holes I'm gonna put in here is 32. It's a multiple of 2. Instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then end up being 32, I eventually want 32, so maybe I'll start by doing 8, and then I'll go back and bisect those 8, and then go back and bisect but skipping around. By having the holes relatively evenly distributed, it deforms less than if the holes were all right next to each other. The edge of it will be ugly. It will not be as pretty as this. This has some burrs and a little bit of indentation, but this is going to be ugly. If I'm careful, the direction of the deformations will be towards the center, and that's good because this is the bottom, and I'm going to put the bottom inside the top. I've shown you a few times that when trying to pierce, that the speed, the acceleration, helps to pierce. And even if you believe that you did not know that principle, you actually did. You did know that idea. Maybe you could not articulate it, but you did know it. Now, the reason I say you did know that idea, even if you could not articulate it, is because think about something like an extreme situation where you have an axe and you're trying to chop wood. We have two scenarios, one where you swing the axe quickly and one where you just put the axe on the wood and just push slowly. The axe doesn't change, the wood doesn't change. I think you know that by moving the blade quickly, you are going to be able to chop the wood. You're not going to chop wood very effectively if you just rest the blade on the wood and just push really hard, right? Even if you did not know how to articulate that concept, I believe that you already knew that concept. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is that's true of a lot of knowledge. You possess an incredible amount of knowledge that is highly specific in your mind. So the wood chopping example, you already knew swing the axe quickly. You already knew that. But the way you have it stored in your mind is that that concept was localized or specific to an axe and chopping wood. There's nothing wrong with that. That is how the human brain works. That's the first level of storing information in our brains. It's as we abstract information that we can draw connections between different scenarios. So this is not wood. This is not an axe. And the action, I'm not chopping, I'm puncturing. So it's not obvious that your knowledge about chopping wood with an axe is applicable to using a safety pin to puncture an aluminum can. There are many levels of abstraction there. I've been a teacher and I've studied education theory. More sophisticated knowledge of any subject is essentially increasing the abstraction of the ideas and specifics and techniques and arts within an area of knowledge. I guess I'm trying to make a few points. One point is most people have a lot more knowledge than they realize. Can you see that I now have a series of mini holes? In some places, the holes are much closer together. In other places, the holes are spaced farther apart. It would probably be to my advantage to right now puncture some more with the needle, but you know what? I don't feel like it. Sorry, I'm feeling lazy. Lazy is not the right word. It's definitely not the right word. It's not true that I am feeling lazy. I am tired, and that will happen to you too. Whether you're camping or in a disaster, there will be times when you're just tired, hungry, or hurt, or all three, but you have to do a task. When I scored this, I think it took me about 45 minutes, and I kept going and kept going and kept going. Right now, I don't have the ability to do that, literally, because of my illnesses. I am disabled. disabled ability. I physically could not do this for 45 minutes. Puncturing more holes, I could probably puncture a few more, but it's about using what energy I have strategically. If I sat here and punched a few more holes with the safety pin, I probably would tire myself out before I finished making this stove. And so I would have to stop recording and go rest. So I'm making the strategic decision to lower the quality of my action by switching to this tool, because then I believe I can complete this total task. So it's a strategic choice. Absolutely, definitely not laziness. It's about knowing my limitations and choosing to finish this stove and have it be uglier than I want versus not finishing the stove right now. The perfect is the enemy of the good. I'm physically tired. I'm physically hungry. Some of my particular health problems create exhaustion. By coincidence, this is the first hole I made with the safety pin. It's just a coincidence. I'm not doing it on purpose. So you can see there's deformation. Now, this tool, normally I would not want to puncture all the way down, but in this case I do, because the point is to widen it. So I'm going to go very quickly because the deformation is so strong and this is not very sharp. So if it were really sharp, then the sharpness would help to cut the can. And I really don't want this to deform too much. I don't want it to permanently deform very much. It's okay if it deforms a little. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. You can see that it is deformed. Can you, I hope you can see. Can you see that there's definitely an indentation there? Okay. That's not good. Because now you see how some of the burr is coming out. I do not want that. I must have all the burrs going inside because this portion will go inside this portion. So I need the burrs, all the burrs must be going in. So first thing I'm going to do is try and level it. I'm pushing it so that it's level, and now I'm going to stick it in again, but by pushing on this edge so that the burr goes down. You don't need to memorize this. This is not a video about making stoves. I'm telling you these things to give you an idea of how I'm thinking about the issue. That way you can stop seeing this as an acne extraction tool, stop seeing this as an aluminum beverage can, and try and examine each situation from the perspective of the simplest view. Like, this is a hole, this is aluminum, this is a hard piece of metal. My problem is I have a burr. How do I get rid of it? And now I'm rubbing this and it doesn't hurt. There's no burr on the outside. Can you see that this hole has a crater? This is not going to be a straight line. Like, this is a straight line. It will have these ups and downs. And in this case, that's just fine. The first time when I pushed this all the way through, because of this tapering, getting it back out was not very fun, and I don't want to do that again. Although, maybe if I push it all the way in, see how this part is wider? Maybe if I pushed it and then used this part to also widen the hole, that could work, but I don't know if I have enough space. I think I do. Okay, let's try that. Here we go. Now I can actually push slowly. At least I think I can. No, I can't really. Oh, it's it's a serration. Okay. Now it is deep enough that the point is barely touching this side. So we were able to get it, I was able to get this tool past its widest point. which is good. So now pulling it out should be easier than before, except for I didn't take into account this area here that makes it easier to grip the tool is effectively a serration, and that when I pull it up, it's going to pull the the burr. I don't like that, so I'm moving it side to side to widen it. And now I'm doing this so that it's sort of like a file, and I'm doing it at an angle so that it tends to go towards the inside. I can see with my eye that there are burrs that are exposed. So I'm not going to take off my glove and test it because I can see very clearly that there are burrs. About the burrs, there's a burr here and there's a burr there. This side is trash. This side is the part we're going to use. So I don't need to fix this burr. I do need to fix the other one. I might not fix it now, since I accidentally discovered that I can use this as a really low quality file. I might choose to fix the burrs after this is completely disconnected and use it like that. Here we go. Okay, look at that deformation. See how it didn't pop right back in place? Okay, good. It's not a permanent damage, but there is, right there's a permanent crimp. Now, luckily, that permanent crimp is on the trash side of the can. If it were not, it still would not be a major issue in this case, but that type of permanent change to the material is very much what I want to avoid. So this is actually going to work much, much better than I thought it would. I'm very happy about that. The problem will be the deforming of the can. Instead of pushing down to widen, I'm using this, which basically tears the can. The remainder of the work decapitating this. Okay, it is. That's a really big deformation. This part, it's okay though, because it's going to be on the inside. Now, one of the problems with making deformations that large is this goes inward, is it next to it, it creates one or two pieces that tend to go outward, and that one to me looks like it goes very much outward, and that could be annoying to deal with. I don't think it's going to be catastrophic. What am I going to do here? The technique I'm using now is stop and reevaluate. Challenge my assumptions and beliefs about what I am seeing and what I need to do. I am going to use this funky tool that I've been using to now widen by essentially tearing the aluminum. point. There's 1, there's 2, there's a bunch, 3 and 4 or so. So you see how now when I push it, it deforms greatly. That's what I was talking about, how before, when there were a bunch of little connections between the top and the bottom, it would distribute the energy, and that would give it a lot more structural integrity. Well, that's gone. There's only a few connections between the top and the bottom now. Okay, I'm just gonna come back to that because it's giving me more resistance than I want it to. So, ironically, doing the very last one is somewhat easier. That one, you saw how quickly I was able to go through it. Okay. Got something there and something there. I'm gonna come back to that one. I think I have 3 in total. This is the one. Next one. And there's a pinhole right in the middle. You know what? Let's use the pinhole. There we go. So, it broke through one side. That just nicked my glove. I'm glad I had my glove on, because I might have put a hole in my thumb. Ta-da! You see, using the little tiny tool was useful. Always keep your workspace clean. All right, yes, I have 2 pieces left. So now, with some twisting action, I can get a little bit of help. There we go. Okay. And like I said, the last one, ironically, can be the easiest because I can use the can, right? But it also got to be careful about how it deforms and how it tears. Yeah, see that right there? Almost tore a very large angle downward. I don't mind if the trash part looks ugly or is really deformed, but I do care about the internal, the bottom part. There we go, that helps. I could twist it all the way around, but I know that that will leave a burr that will be annoying. That I would have to fix, so I did that. I just weakened it so I could push it. Whee! This is the bottom of the stove, this is the top. You can see pretty large difference in the quality, the gracefulness of the cut, but this side will go on the outside. So all of these burrs that are facing inward will be hidden. I can see a few problem areas. See how that piece, it looks like it's going just straight up, but it's actually flaring slightly outward. But all of the rest of that is not particularly important, and it could be useful. I have oxygen intake holes here. They will be approximately here. Not a hole on this, just a hole on this wall. And so this part where it flares in a little bit will make it a little bit easier for the oxygen to mix with the fuel before it comes out of the jet. So it is potentially a slight advantage that this portion has so much flaring in. Still, this is a very crude technique, and I'm sure you can understand that a pair of scissors would have been much easier and a much cleaner cut.